I never thought I'd see her again after she vanished, but her return brought heartbreaking secrets. I will never forget the day everything fell apart. It was a sunny morning, the light striped through the leaves, but darkness hung heavy in my heart. I felt it, like a pressure in my chest, a storm brewing. Then, out of nowhere, she appeared. Charlotte. The girl who had left without a trace, who vanished, swallowed by mystery. Her eyes were hollow, but the flicker of something haunted was there. I could barely breathe, tears pooled, blurring my vision. How could she just return after all this time, 4 years? 4 endless years of uncertainty. I remembered the day she disappeared. She skipped school, told me she'd be back. The silence that followed was deafening. Days turned into weeks, the search was relentless. Posters everywhere, our faces lined with fear, still, nothing. She was gone. And now the twist. Here she was, standing in front of me, but it wasn't the homecoming I'd dreamed of. I felt sick as fear coiled around my gut. Charlie, is that really you? My voice trembled, barely a whisper. She nodded, but it felt like I was talking to a ghost. Her presence was cool, distant. What had happened to her? Had she gone somewhere dark? My hand shook as I reached out, hesitant. She flinched but took a step closer. Her worn jeans hung loosely on her frame. Her skin was pale, almost translucent. A shiver ran down my spine. There were secrets behind those tired eyes. I could sense it. Where have you been, Charlie? Her silence was deafening. It swallowed the air around us. I could see the way her lips quivered, the shadow of fear dancing in her gaze. I wanted to reach for her, to pull her back into the light, but there was an invisible barrier. I felt every heartbeat pulse like a drum. The cicadas sang loudly, their rhythm chaotic, yet I stood frozen, the world fading around us. Finally she spoke. You won't believe what I've seen. Her voice trembled, and my heart raced. What could she have possibly gone through? I wanted to scream, to demand answers. But I was too afraid of what I might hear. There was a heaviness, a sense of urgency in her tone. As I looked closer, I could see more than just her pain. There was fear stitched into her very being, a trauma that seemed to pulse through her. I had to know. Why now? Why return? I wanted to shake the truth out of her, but the fear kept me at bay. In that moment, the memories rushed back. The nights spent staring at her empty chair, the whispers of hope turning into desperate prayers. The sun began to set, casting shadows around us. I shivered. It felt colder, like the darkness was creeping in. Charlie looked around, as if sensing unseen eyes watching us. They know, she murmured, her words barely rising above the rustling leaves. They're waiting. What did she mean? Who was waiting? My heart raced as confusion and fear tangled within me. The urgency pressed hard against my chest. The quiet dripped with secrets, urging me onward. Charlie, please. I reached for her again, but she stepped back, her expression haunted. A lump formed in my throat. I was losing her again. I can't tell you everything, not yet, she whispered, her voice barely a thread. My reality shattered around me. A gasp escaped my lips. Why couldn't she trust me? Had whatever she experienced cut her off from me? As the light faded, a chill settled deep within my bones. I needed answers. I needed to know where she had been. And even more, why she was back. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The following days passed in a blend of anxiety and urgency. The relentless pounding of my heart echoed with unspoken words, while Charlotte became an enigma wrapped in secrets. We existed in the same space yet remained worlds apart. She avoided my gaze, her silence a barrier that felt insurmountable. Every time I searched her eyes for answers, I found only shadows. Then came the unseasonably bright Friday evening, as I found myself drawn to the park where we had spent countless summers, laughing and playing hide and seek among the oak trees. Now, the air was thick with ambiguity, the breeze unsettling as I clung tightly to the fragile threads connecting us. I spotted her sitting on our old bench, her silhouette outlined against the setting sun. There was an alluring beauty to the dusk, but it felt tainted, heavy with the weight of unaddressed emotions. "Charlie," I called out softly. The familiar name felt like a forgotten song, a melody I longed to hear once more. She turned slightly, her lips curving into a faint smile, one that failed to reach her eyes. "Hey," she replied, her voice a whisper once again. As I approached, I noticed the trembling of her hands, as if she were grasping at remnants of terror just beneath the surface. I sat next to her, the distance still palpable between us. "I've been thinking about what you said the other day," I began, hesitance clawing at my throat. "About them? Who are they?" She inhaled sharply, her breath shaky. "I can't, please," I urged, my voice cracking, desperation seeping through. "You don't understand what it's been like for me. You just disappeared. I need to know why you came back like this." "You think I wanted to leave?" she snapped, a flicker of anguish surfacing. "I didn't have a choice. They took me." "You have no idea what it was like." My heart dropped, the real gravity of her words settling like a stone in my chest. "Took you? Who took you, Charlie?" She looked away, tears glistening in her eyes. "I don't remember clearly. It's like my mind is locked in a battle with itself. I know something happened, but it's too painful to face. They were everywhere, and I had to escape." There was a moment of raw silence, our breaths mingling as the shadows deepened around us. I reached out, inches away from her knee. "And now that you're back, are they still after you?" "Maybe," she replied, voice barely above a whisper. She shivered, wrapping her arms tightly around herself. "I don't know if I'm safe." Panic flared in my chest. "We need to go to the police. They can help." "No," she cried, her eyes wide with fear. The word echoed ominously, a warning against the very idea. "They could be watching. The wrong people. We can't trust anyone, even if it's the cops." I drew back, recoiling slightly. Everything I had thought about her returned, twisted and morphed into something darker. "What do you mean? Who are those wrong people? And why are you afraid of the police?" Charlotte gripped the bench, her knuckles white from the pressure. "Please, just listen to me. They found me once. They can find me again. There's a reason I came back. It's not just for me." Her voice trailed off, and I could feel something significant buried within her words, but it was cloaked in fog. A rustle broke the atmosphere, an unexpected interruption shaking my focus. The leaves shifted violently, as if warning us of an approaching storm. A figure emerged from the shadows, a stranger dressed in a dark hoodie, obscuring their face. My heart raced as dread unfurled in the pit of my stomach. "Charlie," the figure spoke, an urgency sparking in their tone. "We need to go now." Panic surged through me as I looked at her, confusion clouding my mind. "Who is that?" Her jaw dropped, horror flashing across her features. "Run!" She lunged forward, grabbing my hand with surprising strength, pulling me away from the bench and into the thickening darkness. I stumbled as we sprinted through the park, the world around us blurring into a haze of greens and browns, but the figure followed closely. My breath came in frantic gasps, my heart hammering a relentless beat in my chest. I couldn't process everything. Fear surged as I sensed the grave reality that whatever had taken Charlotte was still relentless, still hunting. We rounded a corner when we heard the soft echo of footsteps, far too close for comfort. "This way!" Charlotte shouted, and we ducked behind a row of bushes, hearts pounding like wild drums. I grabbed her shoulders, desperation twisting my insides. "What is happening? Who are they?" My voice broke, fear clawing its way up my throat. She looked me straight in the eyes, a storm of emotions roaring within her. "They're here for what I know. And if we don't get away, they'll take me again. Or worse, you." Suddenly, All I could hear was the rapid beating of my heart. I wanted to believe we could find safety, that I could protect her from whatever shadow loomed just beyond our reach. But in that moment, as Charlotte's terrified gaze bore into mine, all of it seemed impossibly out of reach, the pressing darkness threatening to swallow us both whole in an unforgiving tide. The world outside our hiding spot blurred into an indistinct ambience of rustling leaves and muffled voices. My pulse quickened with every strained breath I took, trying to grasp the gravity of the situation unfolding around us. Charlotte's grip tightened on my arms as she peered through the leaves, her eyes flickering with an unsettling mix of terror and determination. "Listen," she whispered urgently, her voice trembling. "I need you to trust me. We have to keep moving, but we can't let them know I'm with you. If they see you, you could be in danger too." "Danger?" My senses screamed at me with the word. "What kind of danger? Who are they?" I burned with questions, feeling the edges of panic close in around us, yet clarity evaded me like smoke slipping through my fingers. The figure in the hoodie reappeared, darting towards us with strained breath. "We have to go, Charlie. They're closer than I thought." "Who the hell are you?" I shouted, stepping in front of Charlotte instinctively, defensively. I felt as though I'd traveled to a realm of unknown peril, confusion tangling with a desperate need to protect what I cherished. "Not the time," he snapped, glancing nervously over his shoulder. "If they catch us here, it's all over." The weight of his words sank deep into my bones. Charlotte stepped to the side, urgency flashing in her eyes. "Ignore him, please, let us just run." She tugged at my arm, and I felt the inherent trust one had in her, despite everything, the chaotic uncertainty, the secrets veiled in shadows. Still, a nagging doubt wormed its way into my mind. "Wait!" I called out, trying to steady my racing heart. "I don't even know who I'm running with." "Trust him," she exclaimed, desperation evident in her voice. "He is all we have right now." It was all too surreal. I could almost hear the echoing laughter of days gone by swirling around, taunted by the reality of our present moment. There was a terrifying urgency binding us together, yet the bonds of trust were fraying with fear. Without thinking twice, Charlotte pushed forward, and I followed. We ducked low as we left our cover, the thrill of flight coursing through us while the shadows teetered dangerously close. Every step on the grass felt like a pulse of thunder, as if each heartbeat summoned unseen forces trailing behind. Darkness enveloped us, with only the muted glow of street lamps paving our escape route, our breaths mingling into the night air. The weight of Charlotte's presence was electric, but entwined with fear, her past spilling like blood across the path we tread. "Where are we going?" I gasped breathlessly, trying to keep pace. "Just a little further," she replied, her focus unwavering, even as panic painted her features and I felt the sharp-cut edges of uncertainty deepen. We reached an alley, slender and shadowy, a place where the world felt suspended, as if frozen against the screams of chaos just beyond its dark mouth. Charlotte hesitated for just a moment, casting a look back to where we'd come from, an invisible tether to what haunted her. The looming figure stepped into the shadows, his voice low and edged with worry. "We need to get to safety. You'll understand soon, I promise." But I couldn't shake off the unease gnawing at me. "Why should I trust you?" "Because there's more at stake than you realize," he said, urgency spilling from his every word. "You don't know who you're dealing with." A chilling shiver threaded through the air, weaving its way into my skin, and for the first time, I felt the stark truth of my situation sink in. I'd believed it was mere uncertainty, that the scars from the past could somehow heal with Charlotte's return. But now, it felt as if the very air crackled with impending danger. The alley ended in a small door, heavy and worn, but Charlotte's eyes held a glimmer of recognition. "This is it," she breathed, urgency twisting her features into something both hopeful and terrified. But before we could move, a sound echoed behind us, footfalls, crushing gravel that fell like lead in my chest. A cacophony of shadows encroached upon our fleeting sense of security, like a storm rolling in swift and ruthless. My heart dropped as I turned slowly, dread pooling in the pit of my stomach as a familiar face emerged from the darkness, twisting my entire world in one haunting glance. You shouldn't have come back, Charlie, the voice sliced through the night, drenched with a chilling certainty. You know what happens when you resist. Beneath the weight of those words, everything hung in the balance, the fragile thread of hope trembling in the wind, a flickering ember threatened to extinguish amidst the gathering storm. The air grew thicker, almost pulsing with tension, as the figure stepped from the shadows, his features now unmistakable. Lucas, Charlotte's brother, who had disappeared into the depths of neglect and anger following her sudden departure. My heart sank as I took in the harsh lines of his face, the way his jaw clenched tight, as if holding back waves of rage and pain. Lucas, please. You don't understand, Charlotte pleaded, her voice cracking like glass under pressure. I don't understand? He laughed, a sound devoid of warmth. You've waltzed back into our lives, acting like nothing has changed. Like I didn't waste years searching for you. Stop. I stepped between them, desperation clawing at my throat. Just give her a chance to explain. He looked at me with disdain, a confusing mixture of anger and hurt shadowing his gaze. And you're just another one of her distractions, huh? Another naive soul drawn into her chaos. Maybe you'll be the one left shattered this time. Charlotte staggered back, her eyes brimming with unshed tears. You don't know the whole story, Lucas. I had to leave. They were coming for me. Who? Who were you running from? I asked, my voice subdued, as if any louder would shatter the fragile balance we teetered on. But instead of answering, a flicker of fear crossed her face. The truth was deep, buried beneath layers of guilt and pain. It was evident she was caught between her family's past and her desire to salvage my feelings. Why did you have to come back? Lucas hissed, moving closer, his voice lower but rising with intensity. You've only made things worse for everyone. You never cared about the rest of us. The weight of his accusation took the air from the alley. I could almost hear the echoes of their lost childhood, the laughter that had presumably faded into the shadows he now wore like armor. But then I remembered the girl I had once known, her warmth, her kindness, the promise of brighter days. This was not the end I had chosen for her. Lucas, listen to me, Charlotte's voice quaked, yet held strength. I came back to make things right. I thought I could help. He scoffed, shaking his head with a bitter smile that cut deeper than any knife. You think you can just come back and fix everything with a pretty speech? They will find you, and they will find me. You're only putting us in more danger. Then tell me who they are. Please, I want to understand, I interjected, sensing the urgency strangling our small flicker of hope. Enough. We don't have time to play games. Lucas's voice rose, fragmented with a mix of fear and anger, until he pointed a finger at Charlotte, eyes wild. You need to choose, Charlotte. Do you want to fight for a broken past, or do you want to survive? I don't want to fight, she cried, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. But I can't let you go down this road alone. Don't you see? I can't leave you to face this without me. A deep silence enveloped the alley, each heartbeat echoing the weight of long-buried fears. I could see it, the love and loyalty between them, aching under layers of betrayal and misunderstanding. In the shadows of their shared history, I felt an overwhelming sense of helplessness. But just as I was about to speak again, the sound of voices drifted down the alley like a distant storm, growing closer with every passing moment. My heart raced. They're coming, I gasped, looking from Charlotte to Lucas. We need to. A sudden crash echoed through the night, the heavy door beside us splintering open as figures loomed at the entrance of the alley, dark silhouettes against a fractured world. Run! I shouted even as panic clawed at me, but before Charlotte or Lucas could react, a tall figure emerged from the shadows, his eyes glinting like flint in the dark. Caught you at last, Charlotte, he drawled, a predatory smile playing at the corners of his lips. And you've brought a friend to the party. With one last glance exchanged between the three of us, one tangled with fear, love, and the complexity of familial duty, I knew everything shifted. Our fragile thread of hope unraveled. As the figures closed in, I reached for Charlotte, but the world imploded in an instant. The alley erupted in chaos, a surge of bodies and shouting, a cacophony drowning out the heartbeat of our impending doom. And as I stumbled, hand grasping for someone to hold on to, everything blurred into a harrowing confusion. In my grasp, I held thin air. And that fleeting moment shattered my soul, echoing like the breaking dawn as darkness swallowed us all. The world fell away in a whirlwind of sound and movement, and I felt like I was drowning in the chaos. A sharp jab of panic shot through me as I searched for Charlotte, my heart racing in time with the frantic thump of footsteps echoing off the grimy alley walls. Where was she? The crushing weight of fear bore down as I was shoved aside, bodies colliding in a frantic attempt to escape. Charlotte! I called out, my voice barely rising above the cacophony. The memories of her laughter, of the promise of serene afternoons spent together, darted through my mind like fleeting shadows. Suddenly, a new presence surged close, the figure looming large against the shadows. Lucas. He fought through the throng, his face a swirling storm of anger and dread. Get to the other side, he shouted, gesturing wildly behind him. A wild instinct propelled me forward, thrashing against the current of bodies surging around us. Just as I thought I might reach him, the dark figures descended, and I felt a cold grip around my arm. An anguished scream tore from my throat, but there was no time for fear, no time for doubt. I yanked away, forcing myself onward. Then, an unfamiliar tug at my shoulder caused me to glance back. A girl so young and fragile looking beneath the haze of chaos was being pulled back by one of the men clad in shadowy garments. Her face was streaked with tears, reminiscent of a desperate child lost in a dream. A twisted swell of compassion surged in me, compelling me to take action despite the swirling chaos, the suffocating fear that threatened to consume me. Leave her alone! I yelled, lunging toward them. Time stretched, and within that fleeting distraction, I reached for the girl, hoping to grasp her hand. My fingers brushed hers only for a heartbeat before I felt a sharp jolt of emotion, a connection echoing in a moment painfully familiar. But it vanished like smoke as the man steered the girl away from me, a smirk curling his lips while casting my world into shadows once more. The gap between us widened, desperation flooding through me. Suddenly, a flash of movement caught my eye. Charlotte, a fire burning in her eyes, barreled through the crowd, her determination cutting a path straight to me. We have to go, she shouted, her breath hitching, the weight of urgency heavy in her voice. Where's Lucas? I stammered, darting behind her, searching through the fragments of faces and shadows. Another harsh shove from behind sent me stumbling against the brick wall, the coldness grounding me amidst the chaos. He'll be fine, Charlotte insisted, gripping my arm hard enough to break through the fear that clouded my mind. He'll catch up. You need to trust me. But trust felt slippery, every instinct screamed doubt. Yet as Charlotte's eyes met mine, the raw fear entwined with a flicker of something more profound, the bond we shared ran deeper than the treacherous waters threatening to engulf us. I exhaled, attempting to calm the storm within. What are we running from, Charlotte? I gasped, my heart thundering. You have to tell me. But her expression hardened, steely resolve replacing the frantic desperation, and in that moment, I felt the distance creeping back between us, echoes of the unspoken language of pain weighing heavy on her. Not now, she said fiercely, her voice slicing through the tension cloaking us. Just follow me. With every fiber of my being, I wished to press her for answers, to strip away the layers of silence and secrets. But as footsteps neared, the distant crash of the alley doors reverberated through the knot of dread curling inside me. There was no time. Together, we broke free from the crowd's wrath, darting down a narrow alley with lucid purpose. A gust of cool night air hit my face, pushing back the fog of uncertainty. Hope flickered, though small, riding the coattails of dread. Maybe this was a chance to escape, a chance to fight back. What now? I gasped as we reached a dead end, the brick wall towering before us. My heart sank at the abrupt halt, the air suddenly rushing around us thick, heavy with uncertainty. Here Charlotte glanced around nervously, then turned to me with fierce intensity. We hide, and we wait. Everything in me resisted this gamble. What about Lucas? We can't just leave him. Trust me, she repeated, glancing over her shoulder. We have to stay low. It's the only way. The unmistakable crunch of footsteps approached. They were closer now, and with them, the hush of an encroaching storm settled over my heart. Gritting my teeth, I raised my voice. Charlotte, you have to tell me what we're running from. Before she could answer, a shadow passed by, just beyond the dim light, silhouetted against the cracked wall. My breath hitched. You think you can run, Charlotte? Came a voice laced with menace, a powerful undertone that reverberated through my bones. Your time is almost up. And in that chilling instant, the depth of the secret she held threatened to engulf us both, and there was no recoiling from the truth lurking in the shadows. The storm was upon us, and all that was left was the battle we had yet to fight, a battle that could crack open the very foundations of who we were. Charlotte's face paled, and I felt the ground shift beneath me, the weight of her secrets poised to fall like a hammer, leaving us both vulnerable and exposed. The very heart of our journey was on the verge of tumbling into darkness, and there was no backing down now. The mystery deepened around us, and as the darkness enveloped, I realized this was only the beginning of our downfall. The whispers of uncertainty hung around us like a thick fog, intangible yet crushing in their weight. Charlotte pressed her back against the unforgiving coldness of the brick wall, glancing skyward as if searching for answers in the moonlit night. I felt her breath quicken, matching the tempo of my racing heart. The shadowy figure loomed closer, the menace of his words clasping around my throat like a vice. Charlotte, please tell me, what do they want from you? My voice broke the suffocating silence, a desperate plea mingled with fear. The urge to grasp her shoulders and shake the truth out of her surged through me, but the vulnerability I sensed in her eyes anchored me in place. Just wait one moment longer, she murmured, almost to herself, her gaze locked on the shadow that stalked like a predator. The air crackled with tension, a pulsing rhythm that mirrored my own trepidation. Then, from around the corner, our pursuer stepped into view, a tall figure dressed in dark, flowing garments that danced slightly in the wind. The smirk had vanished, replaced by a cold mask of determination. There was something hauntingly familiar about him, a flicker of recognition sparking through the haze of fear. My stomach twisted. I felt I had descended into something far darker than I understood. You can't hide forever, Charlotte. You know we'll find you, he said, every syllable laced with a dangerous promise. Stay quiet, she hissed, her eyes locking onto mine, pleading for my silence. The world faded beyond her gaze, and in that moment, it was just us, two souls adrift in a storm too bracing to comprehend. But the pang of anxiety twisted my gut, and I struggled against it. You know him? I whispered urgently, trying to suppress the tremor in my voice. A ghost from the past, she replied, her lips barely moving. He doesn't know everything, then let us go. We can't just silence. The command cracked like lightning, sending chills down my spine. The figure surged forward, the menacing shadow swallowing the space between us. Charlotte, he breathed, low and accusing, you left us. You left everything behind. His eyes narrowed, focus honing in on her, brimming with a mix of anger and longing that scratched against the edges of my resolve. Don't listen to him. We can fight it together. We can be quiet, she urged, her grip tightening on my arm. I'll explain everything later, I promise. Just trust me. The words reverberated between us, but beneath the surface, something churned out, clashing with desperate hope. My heart wanted to trust her like before, to believe in her strength despite the cracks forming around us. Yet, with every passing second, I craved the full story, the connections I didn't understand clouding our shared destiny. The figure loomed closer, and Charlotte's expression hardened, morphing into one of fierce determination. I won't let you take me again, she declared, voice unwavering as if she had crossed an unspoken threshold, ready to face her demons. With that declaration, reality shifted, and for a fleeting moment, the shadow faltered, uncertainty flickering across his face. You think this is a choice? You think I can't take you down just as easily? You're mine to reclaim. And then, like a match striking in the dark, the world expanded. A small light flickered within me, an inkling that perhaps we could defy this shadow together. With Charlotte by my side, there was strength hiding behind the trepidation. But before I could seize the opportunity to charge forward alongside her, a sudden movement caught my attention. From the edge of the alley, a hidden figure emerged, an unexpected ally? Or another threat? As she stepped into the light, I felt my heart stop. It was the girl from before, the one I had fought to save. Her tear-streaked face now bore a newfound resolve, her eyes glimmering with a fierce determination that echoed Charlotte's. "There are others waiting," she said, her voice steady as a flame flickering in the night. "We can't do this alone." The sound rippled through my mind, a desperate thread weaving its way into the promise of hope, causing new realizations to burgeon. If we could find allies, it could change everything. But just as my hope glimmered, trouble surged anew. "No! You will not disrupt this!" An unrelenting roar escaped the Shadow's lips, and he lunged toward the girl. Time slowed as I abruptly lunged forward, putting everything on the line. I wrestled her aside just in time, but as I turned back to face the threat, a swift movement swept past me, a collision of power and shadow. In that fleeting moment, chaos erupted, and rage mingled with fear as the darkness consumed our surroundings. Charlotte and I locked eyes, realization dawning this was only the beginning of our fight against forces that felt inconceivably vast. Yet as we stood at the edge of battle, I could not shake the chilling echo of the Shadow's words. "You can't run from the past forever." His voice slithered through the air, a haunting reminder tripping over my heart. And with that, the deeper truth buried beneath layers of secrecy began to claw its way back into the light, a truth tied to both Charlotte and the faceless girl standing beside us. In the cacophony of chaos and fear, we were faced not only with external forces, but the haunting remnants of our own histories that threatened to tear us apart. As the storm swirled around us, I realized that the consequence of allegiance was heavier than I anticipated, and in our fight, I caught a glimpse of the greater fallacies that lay ahead, a secret that could shatter everything we thought we knew. The streets pulsed with tension as darkness crept in like a shroud, wrapping around us, stifling even the faintest glimmers of hope. The weight of the Shadow's threat loomed heavily above, an ominous presence calculated to fracture our fragile alliance. The girl we had just saved, Olivia, trembled beside me, her wide eyes reflecting a mixture of fear and determination, as if she were acutely aware of the stakes. "Get behind me," I urged, stepping forward, adrenaline fueling a surge of courage I didn't know I possessed. Every instinct screamed at me to protect her, to shield my friends from the encroaching danger. But I felt no confidence in the impending confrontation, only a rising tide of dread that threatened to wash over all of us. Charlotte, however, possessed an undeniable resolve that anchored me to the present. "We need to stand together," she said urgently, though I sensed her own hesitation beneath the surface. "Olivia's right. There are others who can help us. We just need to survive this moment." His laugh, a hollow, chilling sound, mocked our hopes as he advanced closer. "You think reinforcements will save you? You can no more escape your past than I can erase the mistakes you made." "Charlotte," I breathed, urgency threading my words. "What did he mean? What did you do?" Charlotte's gaze faltered momentarily, the brief flicker of vulnerability sending shockwaves through my heart. "We can talk about it later," she insisted, her tones slipping into the realm of desperation. But right now she didn't need to finish. The grip of the Shadow's presence became more suffocating, each word he spat drawing us further into his web of twisted recollections. I could hear the faint echoes of Charlotte's past winding their way through the air like haunting whispers. It was the unspoken history between them that lay in wait, ready to strike just when we thought we'd found footing. As he loomed larger, the darkness behind him seemed to pulsate, twisting around his figure like a living entity. "You abandoned us, Charlotte, just as you will abandon them if they stand close enough to you," he hissed, each word a blade that threatened to sever her resolve from our increasingly fragile bond. "I won't let you take me again," Charlotte shouted, her voice breaking through the murky darkness like a beacon. There was a depth of power in her words that sent ripples of courage through my veins. In that moment, an unexpected rustle from behind us drew our attention, breaking the spell of urgency. My pulse quickened as I felt the presence of more people converging near our location. Shadows danced along the alley walls, momentarily obscuring the newcomers' identities. "They're here!" Olivia exclaimed with unexpected delight. The shadow turned toward the sound, his expression morphing into one of annoyance, though I couldn't discern for whose arrival he was more irritated. My heart raced in sync with the footsteps echoing off the damp pavement, but I couldn't shake the gnawing fear that spilled from Charlotte's still anguished expression. And then, as the newcomers stepped into the light, I felt my breath hitch in my throat. They were not just allies, they were faces from the past, each raising memories I had assumed were buried long ago. My childhood friends, people I had once fought alongside, stood among them, the weight of their unexpected return crashing over me like a wave. "Michael! Eloise! Jamie!" I cried, disbelief battling against joyful recognition. A million thoughts tangled together. How? Why now? But I sensed they had come with purpose, urgency burning in their eyes, yet, as I took a step toward them, their fierce determination mixed with an unmistakable fear that mirrored my own. Just as I attempted to draw closer, the shadow's voice cut through the moment, slicing into the shared resolve that flickered amongst us like a fragile flame. "You think you can form a wall of camaraderie strong enough to defend against me? You have no idea what I can unleash." His words sent a shudder through our ensemble, and within me, an unsettling realization began to dawn. "Yes. Not just after Charlotte," I murmured, the enormity of the situation slowly unraveling before me. "Yes, after all of us, our fears, our pasts. This is only the beginning." Threatening the very fabric of our unity, memories of old scars rose from the depths, questions left unanswered, promises broken. Each of us had tangled histories that could be twisted against us, dredged from the past just as easily as the shadow had drawn upon Charlotte's secrets. "What did you do?" I turned to Charlotte, compelled to seek the truth, knowing now she held the key to understanding how deep the rot truly ran. "Please," she whispered, eyes shimmering with pent-up emotion. "I didn't want any of this. I thought if I could just find a way to break free, it would save everyone. I never meant to hurt you." As raw honesty hung in the air, I felt the tightness in my throat returning, but beneath my crushing fear, something else sparked, a burning desire to fight not only for Charlotte but for every soul entwined in the storm. "Whatever this is, it doesn't take away the bravery we stand united with," I said, peering into the faces of my friends, fraught with determination. "We are stronger together, even if the past looms ever closer." But as resolve rippled through our group, an unsettling silence settled around us, stirred by a chilling wind that carried a new revelation across the alley. An old, familiar voice suddenly erupted from the darkness beyond the alley, slicing through the stormy hue of despair. "And you think I've come alone?" In stunned silence, we witnessed the shadow retreating, regrouping behind a curtain of velvet night as the figure stepped out, a face that echoed an electric familiarity from my own forgotten past, someone whose return threatened to crack open wounds we hadn't even begun to heal. "What have you done?" I whispered, the question feeling like a noose tightening around my heart as I realized our battle was merely beginning, with secrets poised to unravel before us, ready to consume everything we had hoped to protect. The moment froze in time, a breath caught in the throat of fate itself. I struggled to absorb the implications of the figure emerging from the darkness. The air buzzed with unspoken memories, shadows that reached back into the deepest recesses of my mind. "Sarah," I breathed, horror mixing with disbelief. How could this be? We had assumed she was lost to the night, swallowed whole by the world that had once felt so welcoming. She stood there, a specter from our youth, her presence igniting both warmth and dread. Familiar features twisted into a shadow of the girl I once knew, eyes that had once sparkled with mischief now clouded with secrets. My heart thudded painfully in my chest as fragments of forgotten conversations and cherished moments rushed forward, colliding with the realization that the comfort of nostalgia now bore the weight of betrayal. "Why?" I hardly recognized the plea in my voice. It strained against the profound confusion, almost like a last-ditch effort to hold on to the idea that this was just a terrible nightmare from which I would wake. "You were gone. How could you come back now?" The shadows deepened around her, swallowing the warmth of our reunion. She responded with a cut of her voice, sharp and cold. "You really think you can protect them?" You should know better. You've all sacrificed too much. Sacrificed? Charlotte echoed, the bitterness lacing her tone. You don't know anything about sacrifice. You left us. The tears in her eyes shimmered with a riot of emotions: betrayal, anger, and heartbreak, all swirling together into a tempest that could no longer be controlled. Sarah's expression twisted into something almost sinister, an echo of defiance against Charlotte's accusation. I left to save you from a bigger storm. You have no idea what they're capable of, what they've done to me. They're coming for you all because of me and because of her. She gestured dismissively toward Charlotte, a cruel smile curling her lips that I felt the chill of her words dig into my skin, and as I glanced around at the faces I had fought alongside, I recognized the dawning shock and fear mirrored within their expressions. The half-formed alliances, the close-knit fabric we had woven together now felt ragged, with threads pulled taut, ready to snap under pressure. Sarah, please, what are you talking about? I took a step forward, trying to meet her gaze with clarity. What are they planning? A flicker of doubt crossed her features, perhaps even a glimmer of vulnerability that was quickly masked by her well-practiced facade. You don't even know the world you're stepping into. There are forces at play that you can't outrun or outfight. Then help us. The words slipped out, unbidden, and I regretted them the moment they left my lips. I was swimming in uncertainty, fueled by desperation, hoping against hope that maybe, just maybe, Sarah could provide answers. She bit her lip, hesitating, and for a brief moment, I caught a glimpse of the partner in arms she had used to be, the girl who laughed through the chaos. But that flicker of warmth vanished just as quickly as it came. I can't help you without putting you in danger, she said sharply, voice dripping with regret. You would never understand. Try me, I insisted, battling the hot surge of anger that threatened to boil over. If we're going to face this, if we're going to survive, you have to fill in the blanks. Your past is a darkness that eclipses the fight we can muster, she said, her voice low and cautious, glancing at Charlotte. There are truths you're not ready to confront, and I want to be the one to drag you down with me. Not again. Like you did before? Charlotte's words struck like a match igniting dry tinder. You didn't care then, and you don't care now. You came back here smiling just to watch us fall apart. The tension crackled in the air, electric and suffocating, a fierce reminder of the bonds we had forged, now pitted against the shadows of our shared history. Each of us bore scars unseen, remnants of choices that had been made long before this moment, choices that connected us in ways we still hadn't fully grasped. Enough! I barked, wrestling to hold on to the thread of cohesiveness that still lingered between us. Either you help us defend what we care about, or we all face this horror without you. Her eyes narrowed, assessing our group as if sizing up a pawn in a game of chess. Listen, I'll give you what I can, but the truth isn't a comfort. It'll shatter the very foundations you believe you stand on. I've been shattered before, I gritted out, wielding my resolve like a shield. We can take it. But we have to face it together. Sarah paused, the storm of emotions swirling wildly within her. For a heartbeat, sympathy flickered across her face. If you insist. At least then, when everything falls apart, you won't be alone. Nothing is falling apart, I replied firmly, clinging to hope like a lifeline, but uncertainty gnawed relentlessly. The precariousness of our situation mirrored the shadows we now faced, both threatening to engulf us at any moment. As the deeper truths hung between us, the wind carried a sudden chill that made us shudder, a whisper of what was to come, a prelude to a storm. Each of us stood rooted in the present, teetering on the cusp of revelations that would call into question everything we thought we knew. Then, as if the universe was listening, a low, distant rumble echoed ominously from the darkest corners of the city, a stark reminder that the forces we wrestled with were already descending. Hide! Olivia screamed, her voice piercing the tension and shattering the moment into chaos. We scrambled to maneuver, hearts pounding as the reality of our challenge solidified into something all too real. With one last glance at Sarah, whose enigmatic presence loomed larger than just a figure from the past, I glimpsed not just anguish but an opportunity, a moment to reclaim what was lost. But as shadows lunged towards us, dread seized my heart. Her return may have meant salvation, or it could lead to our undoing. I could only cling to the thread of hope as the world plunged into darkness. And at that moment, I realized, everything would change. The wind howled through the empty streets, a feral creature searching for prey. We scattered like scattered leaves, fear coloring our faces as adrenaline surged within us. My mind raced, grappling to make sense of the chaos, the swelling torrent of uncertainty washing over everything. Did Sarah return to save us or condemn us? The echo of Olivia's cry still trembled in my ears as I found myself pulling Charlotte into a narrow alley, away from the eerie shadows that threatened to creep closer. "We need to regroup," I said, my heart thundering against my ribs. Charlotte nodded, but her eyes were wide, haunted by the specter of betrayal. "Regroup?" she echoed bitterly. "What more is there to discuss? Sarah's back, and suddenly everything we've fought for feels like a house of cards easily toppled." Her breath hitched, the tremor in her voice unraveling the wall she'd built against the pain. I wanted to reassure her, tell her it would be all right, as if my words could spin a protective web around us. "But she knows something," I insisted, desperation creeping into my tone. "We have to dig deeper. This isn't just about her, she's a link to answers we've been searching for, even if the way is shadowed." "But at what cost?" Charlotte shot back, the fire in her eyes unwavering. "The past she left is stained with loss. How can we trust her now? What if she risks everything just to ensure her own safety?" Her anguish hit me like ice water. I felt equally torn, pulled in multiple directions, questioning every allegiance I held true. "She's here, Charlotte. If she wanted to hurt us, she would have done so already. She could have left us to face this alone." As I spoke, I could almost feel the weight of Sarah's burden pressing down on me, the shadows lingering just outside our hiding place. The question that gnawed at me remained unvoiced. Would her reappearance bring us salvation or doom? Suddenly, movement in the distance caught my eye. I squinted through the gloom, the fading light flickering as the shadows morphed into shapes that drew closer, their purpose both menacing and opaque. Panic surged anew, and we huddled together, exchanging a look that spoke volumes. We were facing a war without rules or comfort, and every moment mattered. "Get down!" I hissed, and we crouched low just as dark figures swept into the alley. I could hear their clipped voices as they debated something, their words laden with threats and hidden agendas. "We must find her," one of them snarled, a man framed by shadow, his features obscured but his rage palpable. "She knows too much. She's a liability we cannot afford." "Maybe she'll lead us straight to them," another voice suggested, more calculating, dripping with ambition. "Their defenses are weak. We can strike now." A shiver ran down my spine as I realized they weren't talking about just Sarah, they meant us too. The weight of realization slammed into me. What if Sarah's return had made us the targets once again? "We need to move," I urged softly, nudging Charlotte. We scrambled back into the deeper recesses of the alley, frantic but determined. A thought flickered in my mind about how to reach Sarah before they ripped away any chance of answers. "Maybe we can trap them," I whispered. "If we can find a way to lure them away, we could buy us some time." Charlotte's eyes sparkled momentarily with newfound purpose. "Through the old warehouse over there," she gestured toward a decrepit building half hidden by the chaos of the night. "If we can activate that emergency alarm system, it might draw their attention. They'll never suspect it." "Let us hope it works," I murmured, feeling the weight of destiny pressing upon us as we dashed through the debris, heartbeats synchronizing into a fierce tempo as we maneuvered toward the warehouse. Every shadow felt like an enemy, every whisper of wind a cautionary tale spoken of ghosts that haunted the very ground we tread. As we slipped inside, the stale air enveloped us like a fog. Cautiously, we made our way to the back room where the emergency system was housed. Silence enveloped us once more, thick yet fragile, underscoring the tension that clung to the edges of our resolve. "Here, I can help!" Charlotte exclaimed, her fingers dancing over the controls. I could sense her determination as she worked, desperately willing the machinery to respond, as though her belief could breathe new life into the dormant system. And then, a crackle from behind us shattered the silence. "I wouldn't do that if I were you." Frozen, I turned slowly, dread pooling in my stomach as the darkness shifted, revealing a figure emerging from the shadows. Sarah. My heart raced. Her expression held an unsettling combination of remorse and defiance. You shouldn't have come here, she said softly, each word weighted with a layer of unresolved tension. You don't understand what's at stake. Before I could respond, the rear door we had entered swung open, and our pursuers streamed inside, their eyes glinting with the hunger of the hunt. My breath quickened. Everything I had tried to prepare for unraveled in an instant, and Sarah's revelation sat heavy on my tongue, unuttered and fraught with the terror of truths still shrouded in darkness. In that fleeting moment, caught between past and present, all I could do was wonder, would the secrets she carried with her shatter us, or were we doomed to be the collateral of choices made long ago? The air felt charged as we stood on the precipice of revelation, a final confrontation lingering just beyond the threshold. Would we unveil salvation, or merely the folly of our trust? Time hung suspended, as I felt my world begin to unravel. The cold sweat of fear clung to my skin as I faced Sarah, torn between relief and dread. The shadows in her eyes flickered with stories untold, truths wrapped in dark tendrils. The threat behind her was palpable, a specter of the past that loomed ever closer, but a part of me still clung to the connection we had forged in shared laughter and dreams long gone. Sarah, I implored, my voice barely above a whisper, what are you doing here? We need to get out before they find us. You're putting us all at risk. They already know, she replied, her gaze darting toward the doorway where our pursuers hovered. The tension in the air was electric, thick enough to suffocate. You don't realize the danger you're in. They're not just after Charlotte, they want to erase anyone connected to her. But why? Charlotte interjected, her voice trembling but laced with defiance. What do they want from us? Power, she said, the weight of her words leaching the warmth from the room. They believe Charlotte holds the key to secrets buried deep within our shared past. The truth is a weapon, and they intend to wield it. My heart pounded in my chest as unanswered questions thrashed chaotically in my mind. But you didn't protect us before, Sarah. Why now? Her eyes softened momentarily, a glimpse of the girl I once knew breaking through the darkness. Because I was too afraid to face it, she admitted, her voice barely more than a breath. But I've realized that facing the past is the only way we can reclaim our future. Behind us, the door creaked ominously, shattering the fragile moment of connection. The figures loomed larger, shadows stretching closer, awareness prickling the back of my neck. I stepped back, urging Charlotte to move as I searched Sarah's eyes for a flicker of resolve. So, what's the plan? We need to act before they decide to strike. It's now or never, Sarah declared, a fire igniting in her gaze, echoing Charlotte's fierce determination. We create a diversion. There's a stash of firecrackers at the back of the warehouse. If we can set them off, we might have a chance to escape. Let us do it. Charlotte's voice rang with a certainty I hadn't felt in ages. The looming darkness did not seem so insurmountable when we stood together, unified against the storm. With adrenaline coursing through my veins, we dashed toward the rear of the warehouse, urgency fueling each stride. I reached the old crates stacked haphazardly in the corner, rummaging through them until my fingers grazed the rough edges of the firecrackers. My heart skipped a beat as I turned to see both Charlotte and Sarah poised, fear simmering in the air like charged electricity. Do you think it'll work? I asked, glancing between them. Charlotte took a deep breath, her eyes bright with determination. It has to. As I fumbled with the firecrackers, I caught Sarah's gaze across the space. Her eyes held unspoken apologies and a flicker of hope. You'll forgive me one day, she murmured, and for a brief moment, I considered the weight of that forgiveness, how it could carry the pain of betrayal but also the light of shared struggles. Let us not worry about that right now, I replied, my voice firm despite the tremors in my heart. Survival first, healing later. With trembling hands I lit the fuses, heart racing as the faint crackle of fire echoed in the silence. The figures outside began to shift, murmurs of confusion washing over them. In an instant, I grabbed both girls, and we fled toward the nearest escape point, adrenaline igniting our flight. Outside, the explosion roared behind us, the sound reverberating through the air like thunder. For a moment, the chaos transformed, shattering the oppressive darkness that threatened our very existence. It provided the distraction we needed. "Now run!" Charlotte shouted, breathless and fierce, as we broke free into the open air, the night sky full of stars peeking between the clouds. The adrenaline surged through me, a primal instinct for survival propelling us into the darkness. Away from danger. We ran, our footsteps syncopated to a frenetic rhythm, hearts pounding as the adrenaline pushed us forward. I could hear the figures cursing and stumbling, unable to catch up, and I risked a glance back, fear mingling with an exhilarating thrill. But the exhilaration quickly faded as I realized the haunting uncertainty stretched out ahead of us. "Where do we go now?" I panted as we escaped to a secluded street. "East," Sarah said, her voice steady despite the chaos behind us. "There's an old bunker from the last conflict. It's safe, we can hide there until it's clear." "Okay, lead the way," Charlotte replied, fingers entwined with mine as we slipped through the alleyways, navigating the familiar shadows. As we rushed through the city, something shifted within me. The barriers I had built began to crumble, revealing the daunting prospects of acceptance and understanding. Faced with the ghosts of our past, I swallowed the rising tide of betrayal and fear, realizing how intertwined our fates truly were. But just as relief began to wash over me, the echo of footsteps erupted behind us again, a relentless reminder that the past refused to stay buried. "Go! I'll hold them off!" Sarah suddenly shouted, her determination blazing forth as she faced the oncoming figures. Fear surged through me, but I also saw the fierce light in her eyes, a resolution that no longer flickered behind the shadows. "No!" Charlotte cried, arms outstretched as if to pull Sarah back. "We can't leave you! Just go! Find the bunker!" Sarah's voice was clear, cutting through the chaos that threatened to consume us. "You have to protect what's left. Remember the promise we made? We fight together." Uncertainty tangled with anguish as we exchanged desperate glances, knowing that time had run thin. I took a step toward her, but she shook her head fiercely. "Run!" In that moment, the space became charged with a renewed resolve. We turned away, propelled forward by Sarah's desperation and love, a bittersweet reminder of our shared history mingled with uncertainty. As we sprinted toward the bunker, tears burned against our cheeks, the weight of our choices settling upon us. The promise of confrontation with the truths we carried echoed behind us. Would we be whole again, or merely fragments of our haunted past? The world ahead remained entangled in shadows, but I could feel hope flickering against the weight of despair, a fragile flame of unity amid uncertainty. We would fight for another day, for the chance to truly understand one another, and for the possibility of a future beyond the grasp of the shadows that once haunted us. We burst into the bunker, breathless and alive, the flickering light illuminating the way forward. I turned to where Charlotte stood, her eyes reflecting a fiery determination. "Whatever happens next, we'll face it together," I promised. Charlotte nodded, taking my hand tightly, and in that moment I knew we were stronger than the darkness. In the echoing silence, as the door closed behind us, I felt the warmth of what was left of connection, of belonging, and the reminder that light can pierce even the deepest darkness. Sometimes, it takes confronting our past to clear a path for our future, but together, we could forge ahead into the unknown. And as I held tightly to Charlotte's hand, I realized, together, we'd rise against anything that dared to threaten our bond. Our heartbeats synchronized as we stared into the showdown looming before us, a testament to our willingness to fight for what mattered most. Because in the end, sometimes all we have is hope. And that flicker, so delicate yet unbreakable, could change everything. As the shadows loomed outside the bunker, we stood ready to face the tempest together, knowing that love woven through the fabric of our truth would guide us home.